Back now to the breaking news from New York City. A jury found Sean Combs guilty of 2 charges connected to prostitution. But Combs was found not guilty of the most serious charges of racketeering and sex trafficking. Joining us now is Neama Rahmani, a former federal prosecutor who's been closely following this case. You've been on our program multiple times. You called this. This is how you thought the jury was going to come back. What led you to that conclusion?
Victoria, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's a mixed verdict, but this is nothing than a complete and total loss by the prosecution. And the reason I called it is there was overwhelming evidence of consent. And the victims in the case, Cassie Ventura, Mia, and Jane, they were completely discredited, really by their own words and the freak-off videos. I'll start with Cassie. There were plenty of emails and text messages where she said she wanted to get freaky and couldn't wait to do another freak-off. And she stayed with Combs for more than a decade. Then you had Mia, who was his personal assistant. She never reported the sexual assault. She didn't even tell prosecutors about it. And then she's going on social media and Instagram saying that she loves Diddy and this is her brother. Finally, victim Jane, the most recent victim, she was an OnlyFans model. And even though there were some messages where she said she didn't want to participate in the hotel nights, she was asking Diddy for money, getting clothes, bags, jewelry. She's even still getting her rent paid by him today. So I think the jurors inferred this is someone that knew what she was getting herself into, and this was a transactional relationship.
So now he still faces some time behind bars because of the 2 charges regarding prostitution that he was found guilty of. What do you think it will look like when it comes to jail time for Sean Combs?
Last time I was on, Victoria, I said this will go down as the most expensive prostitution trial in American history, and that's what we're looking at. People are talking about the 10-year maximum sentence, but you can throw that out. That doesn't matter. What matters is the sentencing guidelines. And I was doing some back-of-the-napkin calculations. Diddy's looking at potentially as little as 15 to 21 months in prison. He's been in since he was arrested in September of last year. So I fully expect him to get bond today and be out. And when he's sentenced later this year, after probation completes a pre-sentence report, usually takes about 3 to 4 months, I think he's going to get time served or close to it. So I know the prosecution's asking for 10 or 20 years, either consecutive or concurrent time, but they need to take their loss and move on. Prosecutors in the prestigious Southern District of New York suffered a tremendous defeat today. The jury has spoken, and it's time for Diddy to be a free man.
So let's talk about the 2 really serious charges that he was acquitted of. We have racketeering and human trafficking. Those were some really big charges that came down on Combs. He denied them from the very beginning. Why do you think prosecutors really try to put this on him?
Well, look, they overcharged the case and they made a number of fatal errors. They relied on girlfriends and, former employees. And the question the jurors have, and this is the same question the Harvey Weinstein retrial case, by the way, is this: if you are abused, why did you stay with your abuser for years, sometimes more than a decade? And I understand the psychology of abuse, but prosecutors need to call some of these victims who were maybe minors at the time who have filed civil lawsuits or don't have a romantic or professional relationship with Diddy, don't have all these words of affirmation. And even the freak-off videos themselves, there's a reason the defense kept playing them. And obviously we couldn't see them, but the jurors did. And they watched almost an hour of these really explicit videos. I'm guessing that it showed Cassie and Jane enjoying themselves sexually in these videos. So the prosecution didn't call KK, Christina Joram, Diddy's chief of staff. They didn't call D-Rock, his security. Some of the people that were actively involved in the bribery and the extortion and the kidnapping. So a lot of mistakes made by the government in this case, and the defense team, really a dream team that Diddy hired and put together, capitalized on it.
A lot of the things that we learned over the past few weeks, a lot of unsavory things regarding Diddy, but not necessarily illegal. Do you think that people need to say, okay, these are the things that were presented. I might not do them in my own household, but doesn't mean that somebody else couldn't?
Well, that was the defense in this case. But imagine also, Victoria, being one of the victims and going and telling the entire world that you were urinated on, that you were forced to take drugs until you threw up, that you were forced to have sex when you're menstruating or having a UTI. And the jurors don't believe you. They reject your testimony outright. I think this is going to have a chilling effect on victims coming forward because they have to relive their trauma, tell it in a public way, and they're not believed. But again, I tip my hat to the defense team. They did an outstanding job cross-examining these victims. Let's not forget, the defense originally was going to put on 2 weeks for their case, then 2 days. Then they spent 30 minutes because they knew they'd poked enough holes in the prosecution's case during cross-examination to raise reasonable doubt, and really outstanding bang-up work by that defense team.
Neama Rahmani, we appreciate your insight over the past few weeks. Again, you thought that this is how the jury was going to come down, and they did. And now you're saying that you believe maybe time served is all the time that Sean Combs will face in jail. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Of course, Victoria. Talk to you soon.
And stay with us. We'll be right back.